Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Hare Hare. Did you want to project the? Do you want to project? I can project them. Okay. You can do that. I'll connect again. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskrityam Narottamam Devem Saraswatim Vyasam Vyadayate. Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Tamashloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naishtiki. My regular attending. All that is troublesome to the heart of us to be destroyed, and loving service of the Most High God, who is the face of John and song. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and spiritual master opened my eyes to the power of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, the deliverer of all of us. It is my true and equals the name of the mountains. Hare Krishna. Let me come back to the verse. That verse, particularly the last one, is very important.
It's
What?
just incredibly wholesome to such a degree that is.
So today we are reading from the first canto, second chapter, verse 8. We'll recite the verse and then we will go into going into the other verses. Oh, what happened? Verse 8. You can see it, right? Yeah. Dharma swanushtitha pumsam Vishwaksena kathasuya Notpada yed yadi ratim Shama eva hi kevalam. Gonna go one language.
Dharma svanushtitha pumsam
Dharma sameshtadam pumsam
Vishvaksena Kathasuyah
Vishwaksena kathasuya Dharma sameshtadam pumsam
Vishvaksena Kathasuyah
Vishwaksena kathasuya
notpade yadiratim
Shama eva hi kevalam
Shama eva kevalam Dharma sameshtadam pumsam Shama eva kevalam Dharma sameshtadam pumsam Vishwaksena kathasuya
dharma svanushtitha pumsam
Dharma sameshtadam pumsam Vishwaksena kathasuya
notpade yadiratim
Thank you. Dharma, occupation. So Anushchita, executed in terms of one's own position. Pumsam, of humankind. Vishwasena, the supreme personality of Godhead. Plenary expansion. Then Kathasu, in the message of Ya, what if, Na, not, Upadayate, does produce, Yadi, if, Ratim, traction, Shama, useless labor, Eva, only, he, certainly, Kevalam, certainly. Oh, sorry, it entirely. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Do you want to read the purport? One paragraph each, probably. Oh. Let's start from here.
There are different occupational activities in terms of man's different conceptions of life. To the gross materialist who cannot see anything beyond the gross material body, there is nothing beyond the senses. Therefore, his occupational activities are limited to concentrated and extended selfishness. Concentrated selfishness centers around the personal body. This is generally seen amongst the lower animals. Extended selfishness is manifested in human society and centers around family, society, community, nation, and world with a view to gross bodily comfort. Above these gross materialists are the mental speculators who hover aloft in the mental spheres, and their occupational duties involve making poetry and philosophy or propagating some is with the same aim of selfishness limited to the body and the mind. But above the body and mind is the dormant spirit soul, whose absence from the body makes the whole range of bodily and mental selfishness completely null and void. But less intelligent people have no information of the needs of the spirit soul.
Next one, you can go. You're going to go one by one each. Yeah, go ahead.
Because foolish people have no information on the soul, and how it is beyond the purview of the body and mind, they are not satisfied in the performance of their occupational duties. The question of the satisfaction of the self is raised herein. The self is beyond the gross body and subtle mind. He is the potent active principle of the body and mind. Without knowing the needs of the dormant soul, one cannot be happy simply with emolument of the body and mind. The body and the mind are but superfluous outer coverings of the spirit soul. The spirit soul's needs must be fulfilled. Simply by cleansing the cage of the bird, one does not satisfy the bird. One must actually know the needs of the bird himself.
Good one.
The need of spirit soul is that he wants to get out of the limited sphere of material bondage and fulfill his desire for complete freedom. He wants to get out of these covered walls of the greater universe. He wants to see free light and spirit. That complete freedom is achieved when he meets the complete spirit, the personality and content. There is a dormant affection for God within everyone. Spiritual existence is manifested through the gross body and mind in the form of fervent affection for gross and subtle matter. Therefore, we have to engage ourselves in occupational engagement that will evoke our divine consciousness. This is possible only by hearing and chanting the divine activity of the Supreme Lord. And any occupational activity which does not help one to achieve attachment for hearing and chanting the transcendental message of God is said herein to be simply a waste of time. This is because other occupational duties, whatever ism they may belong to, cannot give liberation to the soul. Even the activities of the salvationist are considered to be useless because of their failure to pick up the fountainhead of all iniquities. The gross materialist can practically see that his material gain is limited only to time and space, either in this world or in the other. Even if he goes to the Swargaloka, he will find no permanent abode for his hanging soul. The hanging soul must be satisfied by perfect scientific process of perfect devotional service.
Jai. We're going to read a few translations for the verses that we're going to be covering. We're going to read again the verse 8. We're going to end at verse 15. So we can go around one verse each, please.
The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead.
Next one. Good, Prabhu.
All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification.
Next one.
Life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's births.
You want to go next?
Learn transcendentalist who know absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan.
Okay, next one. Who wants to go? Good.
The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti.
Next one. Doesn't good.
O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation, according to caste divisions and orders of life, is to please the personality of Godhead.
Okay. Anybody? No. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about glories, remembering and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. With sword in one hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? Let's quickly dive into the background and then we'll go back to how we used to do things. I have a little visuals for what we're going to be talking today. So if you see, let's just quickly go back. Chapter 1, there is a conversation ongoing wherein there is a request being made. If you see at the end, there are a couple of verses which talk about it. We're saying, please tell us about Krishna. please tell us about the son of Nanda. And that inquiry was submitted. And this is the reaction to it now in the second chapter, where first, before being able to talk about this personality of God, the supreme personality of Godhead, you're obviously remembering your Guru Parampara. But then the first and the foremost thing that is being talked about it is the appreciation about the question itself. Because the subject matter that has been inquired about is essential. The verse that we are focusing on, the verse 8, is very important over here, is because if we do not understand if basically the appreciation is that you have picked up a subject matter which is worth talking about, where it is worth spending energy and time on, any other is not something that we need to focus on. It's a waste of time. How do we decide if something is a waste or something is actually meaningful? So that's where we'll jump in. I created something, I'm calling it the spectrum of consciousness. Nice. Comes beautifully. Okay. So, first of all, what is important for us to understand is the purpose itself. Right? For anything that we do, for any effort that we are putting in, there's a purpose behind it. And knowing that purpose is important. There are two reasons for that. Okay, we'll go into the depth of it. First is the fact that there is a motivation associated to it. If we know the purpose, then we know what is that we are putting in effort for. What is that the end result is going to be? What is justifying the amount of effort I'm putting in for? So if I say, just start digging, but you don't know why, it's not going to help. Start digging. There is treasure in there. You know, if you keep digging, treasure is going to come out. Now you see motivation that you have a purpose for which you're making an effort. Otherwise, nobody is going to put in that effort. It also serves as an important factor is it helps us keep ourselves in the right direction. Because if we know the purpose, then every effort that we are putting into, every step that we are taking forward, we're able to continuously align ourselves towards the purpose and saying, why am I doing this again? It does not seem to be achieving the purpose or taking me towards the purpose. This is waste of time. So this purpose that is being discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is being appreciated, is what our focus is going to be. But before coming to that, right, what is this purpose that we are talking about? How do we define this purpose? We are saying, okay, the purpose is Krishna, the purpose is to hear about Krishna, because that's how the opening of Srimad Bhagavatam is happening. But how did we come to that definition? How did we come to that understanding? Let's take an analogy, and from that perspective, we will try and understand how purpose can be defined. If I ask a simple question, and anybody can quickly prompt and give me an answer, what is the purpose of a vehicle? Anybody?
To transport.
Transportation. Perfect. So, if you're talking about vehicle, you would say that the purpose is transportation. But now let me just add more details to it for a little more fun. The vehicle that I'm actually talking about is a truck. Do you want to change the answer now? Good.
Transport like goods and goods.
Transport goods and services. So basically, now you're trying to haul heavy things, goods and services. The purpose has got defined further now when the identity is making more sense. Now let me just add a little more fun to it. What if I say this truck is actually a monster truck? Is the definition changing again? Go ahead. For race. So now the monster truck, the purpose has become entertainment, etc., all of those racings and stuff, right? So see how the purpose itself is being defined and connected with identity. That is essential for us to understand. For us to know our purpose, we have to know our identity first. Once we get to the point of fully identifying ourselves, that is why we will be able to fully identify the purpose associated with that identity. People can have different visions of this purpose. Some can be short term, the other can be a long term. Right? What is that I'm doing immediately in order to achieve a longer goal? That is fine. There are steps to reach that. Somebody who's intelligent will know the final goal and will directly achieve the final goal. Whereas others who does not know the full destination will take instructions one by one and progressively go towards the final destination. That's also fine. Now it's a level of different intelligence. Now, different people are categorized. What the verses that we read, and Srila Prabhupada's purport, super amazing on that, is what he's using this categorizations of people based on their intelligence about their and understanding about their identity, mapping to their purpose. We can define them into categories and we can define their progression towards the ultimate goal, which is what I love to call as the spectrum of consciousness. On the very one end of the spectrum is the bodily consciousness, where we are identifying ourselves as the body. That is our identity. Only you start expanding that identity of body by not just looking at yourself, but a little bigger community overall, stepping over the bodily identity, going into the spiritual identity, Brahman realizations, Paramatma realizations, and Bhagwan realizations. Now, you are an expert on all of these things. You've read these multiple times, but just because you're starting the Bhagavatam all over again, we'll do a crash course about these. And then we will make sure the purpose is in this ladder is to self introspect and see where do we lie and how far are we towards the final ultimate goal that has to be achieved. Okay. So if you see, there is an increasing realization that keeps happening, and that leads to your ultimate goal of liberation in a sense, right? Let's go to the first one, the bodily consciousness, the one which is at the lowest form of intelligence. The problem here is that we are identifying ourselves with the body. We do not understand our true identity. We are completely engrossed into ourselves as an individual, as a body. What is that I need? What is that I want? What is that I need to do? And you're kind of defining everything around I, me, mine, the aham, as it is being called. The problem is that the living entity is actually covered with Maya and it makes mistakes. So it does not fully identify itself correctly, and hence, what it ultimately ends up doing is without fully understanding the mechanisms of their own identity and things around it, they fall into a loop. And that loop is what Srila Prabhupada explains beautifully into the purport, and I kind of try to illustrate it here. Is the first the problem of it? It initiates with the fact that you are falsely identifying yourself, the bodily identification, which is dehatma buddhi. Your intelligence, buddhi, is into the body itself, in the sense that you're fully identifying yourselves with the body. What does that lead to? It leads to different types of desires, the kama. These desires is coming in because we have these different 6 urges, which is what the Bhagavatam defines as these are the different urges that we have. These urges is something which drives us crazy. I want to fulfill these urges. Now remember, when we read Nectar of Instruction, the first verse, in that Srila Prabhupada explains this verse. The Sanskrit of that urge is Vegam. He's not saying a little, um, you know, distraction or any other word in that perspective. The word being used is urge. Urge comes, that vague, the word in Sanskrit, it's a flood. It's not a small stream, it's a flood. So when it's a flood, it brings in a sense of urgency in it. So when we say urge, it brings in a sense of urgency because of our identification. The senses demand something, and we get blown away with that desire just because it's a flood, it's a wave. There is such a strong force associated to it that we are not able to control it. So what happens is because and then what is happening is this urge comes in, and then we start doing some action in order to try and satisfy this urge of ours, which is a karma. Now what Srila Prabhupada defines, it says over here, is that it is like when we're performing these actions, we think we are actually trying to subdue the urge itself. But what happens in reality is, in fact, it's like putting butter into fire. We are actually aggravating it even more. The senses have such an amazing potency that they will not be satisfied no matter what we do. right? No matter how much we give it, it will not want more. Your tummy is full, but that amazing dessert that comes in front of us, the mind says, I want it. Even if the tummy says enough. Even if your blood report says enough. Still you want it. That is why the word is urge. What happens because of this, Srila Prabhupada says, is when you perform such an action, then you'll go into a temporary relief mode where you feel you have satisfied the urge, but you've actually increased it. A little bit satisfaction. Oh, yes, I've achieved the goal. I wanted a car, I got the car. Now the car is in the workshop. Now the struggle is, and there's a very beautiful story around it also. Okay, let me tell the story. A little tangent, real quick, right? So long ago, there was this one person, very poor, okay, very small cottage somewhere in the village, had a wife, had two kids, had a little animal like a goat or something that they were feeding and etc. But very little resource to fill up the tummies of everybody in that house. He goes to a sage and says, Sage, please help me out, please help me out, please help me out. Does anybody know the story? No? Okay. He says, what happened? And he gives the situation, my cottage is so small and etc. etc. Okay, here's what you do. How many of you sleep outside the cottage? All right, yeah. Your wife also, the kids sleep inside. Okay. Why don't you do this? Why don't you and your wife both also go and sleep inside the cottage only in the night? Don't sleep outside on take a cot and sleep outside. I said, but that's not going to make the situation better. I said, no, just do it. I said, okay. I said, a few days later, goes back to the sage again. He said, Sage, it's not helping. It's cramped even further. Life has become even more miserable. Said, you had goats. Get those goats also into your cottage. He said, you're making situations worse. I said, fine. But listen to me. It's going to help you out. The goats are in. A few days later, he goes to the sage again. Says, Sage, you've made situations so much worse. It's totally out of control now. We have a small cottage and you've got everybody cramped in. Not bearable. It's very difficult. Get the goats out. Goats are out. The sage meets the person again. Is your situation better? Yeah, better. I have relief now. Why don't you both go and sleep outside the cottage and let the kids sleep inside? Does it? Is it better now? Yeah, it's much better. Now I'm relieved. You see how we do things? That's our mentality. We have a bad situation, we make it worse, and then we make it bad again, and we think we have actually solved the problem. That is what is the temporary relief that we do. It's exactly the same, right? That's how we think we did something to make our situation worse and get ourselves encouraged again. So I did something, the false identity comes back, and this loop goes on and on and on and on. That is bodily consciousness. And what it does in this loop is what is a very famous set of activities is we limit ourselves to the four activities which is animalistic. The ahar, nidra, bhaya, maithun, which is eating, sleeping, mating, and self-defense. Is that true? If you are not doing Krishna consciousness, are we completely limited to these four activities? What about vacation? We going out and having some fun vacation time. Where does that lie? Hmm? No, you're not sleeping. Yeah, but that's not in the four categories.
By self-defense, because they're just people just go to work, to get money, pay rent, just to sustain themselves,
Right.
just for self-preservation.
Perfect answer. Yes. That goes into the self defense category. If you don't do it, then you will exhaust yourself out and burn yourself out. You will not work. That is your way of defending yourself to be able to do more labor work. Right? So that's our consciousness in the body. So human life is unique. This is the only place where we are able to ask ourselves, who am I, and work accordingly. If we are in this level of consciousness, that's not what we are able to achieve. Right? Let's step further. Let's go to level 2 now. This is where we are saying it's an extended bodily consciousness. You're not limited to me only, but you have added what Srila Prabhupada very beautifully categorizes as ism. You have extended your bodily consciousness to now group itself with others. It's like you're trying to get a group discount in a sense, right? So what basically happens over here is you're adding ism to anything in order to kind of justify your own actions. So you can either say, oh, I'm looking at family, so I'm familism, or you can expand it further. I'm looking at a particular complete caste, like communism in a particular sense, or I'm defending my nation, I'm working for my nation, I'm doing everything for the best being of the nation that I living in, or my religion, or the civilization as a whole. Humanitarianism, for humanity, for the sake of humanity, let's do this, let's save the planet, something. Now, all we are doing is this aspect of sense gratification, that same loop. We're just extending ourselves. We're not just trying to we're trying to gratify our senses through the gratification of others' senses. So this is very interesting to understand. When I say, oh, I'm trying to please my own self, fill up my own tummy, make myself happy, that was level one. Now you're saying, because my entire community is happy, that makes me happy. It sounds like selflessness, but you're basically saying, I'm going to make you happy to make myself happy. But it's still you at the center. The consciousness is still bodily consciousness. How did you group things together? When we talk about humanitarianism, we say human, 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 same type of body. What about the rest? You've left them. It's still bodily consciousness. Feminism, you've taken out a gender. Said, my type, my type, my type, you're not my type. You talk of any such ism, all we are trying to do is we're trying to create a category which gives us the pleasure. Now, if you have observed in advertisements, every car is the best car in its category. Every employer is the best employer in its category. How? Just define the category of what suits you. Right? That's what we are doing here. I'll define my category in a way that it justifies that I'm not self centered, but I'm still trying to keep myself in the center. That is this. Now, the problem is that it sounds noble, but it still at the end of the day is bound by the bodily consciousness. It still is bounded by that same temporary relief category. So, how do we define basically the aspect of saying is it correct level 2 or is it not? It purely is dependent if are we doing it for the satisfaction of Krishna or not. That is what will be called as the genuine dharma, right? So anything else that we are doing which is not on that spiritual platform is on the material platform, level 1 or level 2, is considered cheating, is what is totally 100% a waste of time and energy. That's what the verse 8 was talking about. Let's go further very quickly. The next three levels come under the same, is the sub bullet points of the same category of now of spiritual seekers in an aspect. Now, the level of intelligence again evolves as the understanding and knowledge increases. So, on the first level is the Brahmana realization. Okay, I'm not the body. That understanding between matter and spirit has started evolving now, but you don't have much of the other understanding. We'll go into the details very quick. Then you start understanding, oh, in the spiritual realm of things, it's me, the spirit soul, and there is something else, the super soul. That is where you start going into the Paramatma realization. And then finally, when you understand this, the personality behind the supreme personality of Godhead, that personal aspect of thing, that is where you go into the Bhagwan realization. So from here on, you're into the spiritual aspect of things, but over here also the perfect purpose achievement, we'll see how that comes in, right? Because as I said, short-term goal versus longer-term goals, these can be categorized as a step to reach to the final goal. But if the final goal is not there in front of us understood, then you will get deviated. Going back to what does purpose do? It helps us give us direction. So if that final purpose is not understood, then these steps can deviate us. Okay, let's go dive. The level three, the Brahman realization. This is where we are now starting to understand that there is a difference between matter and spirit. So body is matter, the made out of the five elements, and the spirit soul is spiritual in nature. We've understood that there is something temporary and there is something which is eternal. That's all we have understood so far, right? In this case, the path that the person will take is called the Jnana Marga, the path of knowledge, intelligence. In this case, what they're doing is they're just trying to use their intelligence in order to do what is called neti neti. Is this spirit? No. Is this spirit? No. Is this? You're trying to eliminate out what my Guru Maharaj says, because he came from this, started his initial process by going into somebody who used to follow this neti neti. He says ultimate goal of neti neti is to come to the point of when you are saying not this, not this, not this, not this. The ultimate goal of saying neti 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 is to say that this process is also neti, is to give up that process also. I'm giving up this, I'm giving up this, I'm giving up this, I'm giving up this. I'm giving up this process also now that I've realized what Krishna consciousness is. So that is, if the guidance is coming in, that motivation is coming in, and that sincerity is within the heart, that final goal will ultimately get revealed. But if it is not, then you're kind of stuck in level three. So such a person has realized I am not the body, I am a spirit soul, and hence has stopped sense gratification. But this stopping of sense gratification is only artificial in nature, because it's like restriction. It's based purely on restriction. So what happens is at this time, your understanding of the spirit ultimate thing is just an impersonal light, if you have to understand it that way. There's just an effulgence that we are going to merge into. We are the same as a supreme qualitatively, so we are same. All of that is just this level, because that clarity further within the spiritual realm is not there. It's all flat for now, right? The problem with that is, again, you not the risk associated with that is, if you stay in that level, what is very clearly is that you have elevated yourself to this level 3. But if you're not come to the end of level 3 and going towards 4 and 5 levels, if you stay yourself let yourself stay over here, you will ultimately fall down back to 1 and 2. That's what is being quoted down over here. Is that till when the progress does not take us forward, we try and think this is the ultimate goal, this is the final purpose, then we lose it and we'll go back down. Right? Let's go to the 4, the Paramatma realization. Again, the very beautiful analogy of the two birds start coming in over here. The person has started realizing that with even matter, spirit. Now, spirit also splits into two, in the sense of me and the Supreme. Now, the understanding of the Supreme is just as a witness, a supreme power and a supreme energy. The full understanding of the personality behind that is not understood. So, the analogy that very beautifully Bhagavatam gives is this of two birds on the same branch of a tree. One is enjoying the fruits, the other is witnessing what this other is doing. That witness is the super soul, the Paramatma. We've started understanding at this moment of time that Paramatma is our, our best well wisher, the one who's going to accompany us through the entire cycle. What the people who don't understand it completely might refer to as the inner voice. Oh, don't do it. It does not sound right. That is the Paramatma trying to guide us. But a very beautiful thing that somebody had told me long ago was Paramatma is like the GPS. It's going to tell you in 100 meters, turn right. If you don't, it's not going to slap you. It will read out. The Paramatma is the witness who's continuously just waiting for the soul to turn around and look at them and realize and start taking actions based on what motivation the Paramatma is trying to give to the soul. But if you're not doing that, then it's your decision. There's no force, right? So such people, they've kind of started realizing. So they go through the Ashtanga yoga process. So what is Ashtanga yoga process is Pratyahara is the first step where like the first level you're trying to withdraw your senses from enjoyment. But now you've kind of gone into the other processes steps also where you're doing dharana and dhyana. So you're now starting to meditate on this four-armed form of the Lord as Vishnu who's in the heart. So you now started to realize some aspect of there being a supreme which is greater than us, but not fully understood them as the personality. So this now the question that will come is okay, I'm not we are at level 4. How do we go to level 5? That is where in the Kali Yuga the mercy comes in. Where it has been very clearly said that the only way we can achieve that full thing is by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Now, one thing that Srila Prabhupada very beautifully says that this is a mercy and not a concession. There's a difference. When we say it's a concession, do a little bit and you're good. But a mercy is, okay, I'm letting it happen. Which means that mercy can be withdrawn if there is ego coming in, if there is exploitatory propensity that comes in, if there is this tendency, little can do, I'm not doing more, then the mercy is withdrawn. But if there is sincere effort in trying to do the best, but because of circumstances, you're not able to do it or you're struggling to do it, mercy fills in the gap. Right? So it's like grace marks, if somebody knows that concept. You're short on your results in your marks, and in the terms of marks in your examinations, but you put in good effort, you are very close to passing. Say 30% was the passing marks, you got 28. All right, 2% grace, I'll consider you pass. Even though you were not. That's mercy. But if you say, oh, there is grace marks available, I'm not going to do anything, somebody is going to just be merciful on me and pass me, and you don't do anything, then you'll fail for sure. So, this aspect of using the holy name of the Lord is a mercy, not a concession. So, that's why the 10 offenses that we recite in the morning is to remind us about that. Let's go further. So before we go to the final step, let's go roll back to our identity. So what is the identity which is going to define the final goal purpose is the fact that we have to understand that we are Krishnera Nitya Dasa. That very beautiful word that comes Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nitya Dasa. So we have to understand that we are the humble servants of the Lord. And this aspect of Das is not just which is superficially said, but it is actually a feeling where we are a servant. We also have to understand when we come to this identity as a fact that our bondage to the material world is because of our forgetfulness, which is what is called Krishna Vismriti. Is because of our forgetfulness we are into bondage. So the solution of that is Krishna Smaranam, is to remember Krishna. So bondage is because of forgetfulness. And so what is the process of liberation? Is to return back to our original constitutional position of being Nityadasa and behave and act in that particular way. This is important to understand is the fact that we talk about return. In our Vaishnava Sampradayas, the aspect is the consciousness of the soul has always been to be the servant. It is just that with the covering of Maya, we have forgotten that. The Krishna Visimriti is that we have forgotten that. But when we remember Krishna again, the liberation is to come back to the original, to return back to the original state. It's not that something that we did not have and something gets manifested afterwards. We return back to our original state. We oscillate back to that position. So understanding that is when we come to that point of understanding, that's when we come to the final point of thing of the Bhagwana realization. Because now that we have understood that we are Nitya Dasa, There has to be a person whom we are going to serve. When we are a servant, we are supposed to be servant of somebody. I cannot be the servant of this light. I have to be servant of somebody whom I'm going to do something for. They're going to be pleased. Or they're going to ask me to do something, which when I do, they will be pleased. There will be feedback coming in. You're not doing what I'm telling you to do. There is a relationship. When love is given, love is reciprocated back. That personal aspect of understanding is when that relationship starts building. But all of that will happen once we start first understanding whom are we trying to do be a servant of. That's when the realization of the term Bhagavana comes in. Srila Prabhupada has in multiple places defined the term in terms of the one who has the six opulences, Bhaga. That's what has been listed over here. We understand the supremacy, but we also understand the personality. So we understand there is a person who is powerful, right? And then when we come to that particular point, that is when we kind of get involved in a particular relationship. That can go in one of these five categories. We all know of that, but we talk about left side, lower relationship, right side, highest achieved relationship. But what we need to understand is Aparampara always talks about dasya, because that is the constituent relationship criteria for everything. If you have not developed that feeling, there is no way any other feeling can be developed. Think about it for a minute. If I am not in the point of serving lovingly somebody, can I have a friend? What does friendship even mean? To be there for when you need. In any aspect, I'm going to do anything for my friend. Is there not an aspect of loving service in there? Can friendship exist without there being an aspect of loving service? No. When you go to Vatsalya as a parent, when you're taking care of a child, can you take care of a child without being there? I'm going to do something for my child. There being an aspect of service towards a child. Can it exist? Can Vatsalya exist without you being a friend with your child? No. And finally, when we come to the Madhurya, similarly, all the other aspects are included in Madhurya. You serve with love, you are also a friend. Somewhere you scold as a friend, as a parent also. All that emotions, all that bhav will come in Madhurya also. So only and only for that reason we talk about this linear progression as an increase. Does not mean we being at dasya means we have still not achieved anything. When we achieve dasya, then we can achieve anything else. Because that's the most difficult step. Right? So Bhagwan realization is for us to understand our constitutional position, understand our relationship, and start enacting by that relationship. How do we do that? Coming in from Krishna Vismriti to Krishna Smaranam. The step in between is Navedi Bhakti, the 9 steps, as Prahlad Maharaj has given us. We can perfect even one of them and we can still achieve the goal. We can do a little bit of online and we can still achieve the goal. There are examples, we'll run out of time, but there are examples on each 9 of them where there's one personality who have achieved the perfection in only one of them and has achieved Krishna Prem. And then there are examples, obviously, who have done of everything a little, and still achieved Krishna Prem. So where else do we get so much option for success? Do it like this or do it like that. Krishna is so merciful. He says, always remember me and do things with while remembering me. If you cannot do this, then do this. If you're not able to do this, at least work and surrender result to me. He keeps giving, if you're not able to do, if you're not able to do, he keeps giving us as steps to be able to reach to that level. That is what is Krishna's mercy. One final thing before we close, and we'll conclude that after that, right? There is a verse, which is the 11th verse, which talked about the 3 processes systems. Again, we understood that our final goal is the level 5, We can try and go through 3 and 4, but that's lesser intelligence. If we have been mercy, if we have got the mercy to understand the level 5 as being the final objective, we should directly jump for that. The process of going over there, you can either be a jnani or a yogi or a bhakta. Jnani, yogi are going to go through the 3 and 4 processes and finally reach. The bhakta is the one who's going to reach directly. Why? Because they have understood Krishna as being the source of everything, and that is why they can have that feeling of being an eternal servant. Others, they are just understanding Krishna as either being a witness or don't even understand about his existence. So in that way, that progression ultimately is going to take us to bhakta, because that bhakta includes the jnanis and yogis. So when we are now reading Srimad Bhagavatam, are we not doing an aspect of jnana? Or when we are waking up early in the morning, are we not doing some aspect of austerities as a yogi? Or when we are chanting, are we not meditating as an yogi? So as a bhakta, we include everything out. So let's roll back. Final conclusion, right? The journey for us is to come from the level 1 to the level 5, from bodily consciousness to the Bhagavana realization stage. If we are anywhere in between, not if you're doing anything which is not taking us from 1 towards 5, that's a waste of energy. That's the verse 8 what that talks about. Anything which does not helps us progress, it's a waste of energy. Your current position is only justified if you are working towards the next position. Otherwise, your current position is not justified. You're not fully there. It's okay if there is an active effort to progress. You're still not singing the best, but you're trying and practicing. Okay. I cannot sing, Prabhu. Don't give me that service. I'm hopeless. I'm such a humble soul, I'm saying I'm hopeless. No, that's not acceptable. If we are lacking something, identify it and fulfill that. At least to the minimum standards. You don't have to become the best kirtaner out there, but minimum standards. Minimum standards of everything. The Navedi Bhakti, minimums of everything needs to be there. Right? If that is not being done, then you are wasting our time. I'm going to stop there for any questions real quick.
Thank you for such a wonderful class. I love the 5 eternal rasas. I always had this question that why we don't approach Madhurya when it's highest, but thank you for clarifying it. And the doubt that I have is, as you mentioned, that at level 5th, mercy can be withdrawn. So, when mercy is withdrawn, does a soul again go to the same 5 stages, or does it just hang around in fourth?
Good question. Sometimes the withdrawing of mercy is also mercy, in a sense. Okay, like Krishna is extremely merciful, right? So his mercy is not zero ever in that sense. What we have to understand is you're not supposed to exploit it, right? So, to your question, Krishna very clearly says that in Bhagavad Gita. Even one who is on the path from going from 1 to 5 anywhere, even if they commit a mistake, they should be still understood to be a sage, which means they have not gone back to 1, right? Ajamil fell down, completely acting on level 1, but still was given the concession as a mercy that he did fall down to the bodily consciousness level completely. But still, because of his past, which the efforts in Krishna consciousness is never lost, he was given a second chance. Right? So the mercy over when the mercy is withdrawn, it means that that delta that was being every time you're doing service, you're making mistakes. That mistakes that you're doing is being fulfilled by the mercy. When the mercy is withdrawn, which means that fulfilling of the mistakes is not happening, which means you're not getting services. But your elevation of consciousness is subtly still there within you. But Krishna will continuously keep sending reminders in some way or the other. As soon as you pick it up, you will come back real quick to where you stopped and you'll continue from there.
So, so it means, because you just mentioned, right, that the Paramatma from inside will give you again the directions because he is not leaving you.
Correct.
So it means they'll again fall down to 4 only. Even though they are falling to 1, but
Correct. So that's what I'm saying. So one is your level. You have accrued a certain level of consciousness, but you have started acting lower. Right? So you're acting lower right now, but as soon as you are reminded of the mistake that you have done, you quickly come back to that original position because you have taken that journey already. Right? If you have walked from here till the temple hall multiple times, even if you have come down here by mistake when you're supposed to be in the temple hall, how fast will you reach there? Real quick. Versus somebody who's not been there at all. They're like, where is the way? Do I go here? Do I go there? They figure out and then reach. So even if you fall down, Krishna is merciful in the perspective that somehow he will remind us, and that process of coming back to where you had left will happen rapidly. So it's kind of like, okay, you never fell down in that respect. The same also, by the way, applies for when we return back to our original constitution position. Because once we go back to the eternal spiritual realm, then there is no concept of time over there. So you practically never fell down. So how do you say you fell down? On time A, I fell down. On time B, I revived my consciousness. B minus A is the time I was fallen down. But now, once you're back into the spiritual realm, you cannot do this math because there is no concept of time. So you never fell down. That is something Srila Prabhupada explains, by the way. Any other question? One last. Let's go there first.
She's questioning, I have comments.
Okay. Question? Let's go first. Go ahead, Prabhu. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you for putting so much effort in the slides. My question is, personally, I am trying to put in efforts to reach level 5 of consciousness, but I know that right now I'm at level 1. But what practical effort or one thing that I can imply from now onwards practically, including what I've been doing before, like chanting and reading and doing things that I do. But one thing that can speed up the process of leveling up, because 3, 4, I'm pretty sure it's like no one knows and no one wants to. But 1 and 2 is what right now is practically I am at, and 5 is the goal, and I am trying to put in effort. But what is the one thing that can speed up? Boom.
See, there are a couple of steps that we take first, which you have already taken. First is to realize and identify that there is a problem that exists. And second is to realize that this problem has to be solved and it can be solved. Those steps have been taken. To correct you, you are at level 5. But our situation is we are a viper. 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1. That's our problem. We go 5, but we don't stay there. We come back to 1. We go 5, morning, 4:30 to 9, at 5, post 9, 1. That's our problem. The problem is sustenance right now. So how do we sustain? Have you ever tried to stick something to the wall? Right? You take a little scotch tape, create this very nice loop, and try to stick a heavy picture like this or something. It will not stay, it will fall down. So no, let me get those box packing, the red ones, the stronger ones. It stays for a little longer, but it falls down again. No, let me get those 3M two-side tapes now. Sticks. Stays there for an hour, falls down. The glue has to be strengthened for us to stay longer in 5. What is that glue? Everything that Srila Prabhupada has given us. So basically, what we have to ask as a question to us is, let's put this into form of a number. 24 hours in a day, You can convert that into minutes, you can convert that into seconds, depending on how granular you want to go. How much of that did we spend as per Srila Prabhupada's instruction? Maybe 1%, maybe 10%. Everybody will have a different number. Just think of that in your mind only. That percentage is the strength of your glue. So for us to stick at 5, we have to increase the strength of the glue, which means our sadhana is correct, our path is correct. We just have to do that more. So if we are chanting 16, wonderful. If you're not, then obviously that's the first step. Chanting 16, wonderful, let's do it better. If we are doing services, let's do it better. We have to think of what is that I can do more than where I am right now. For example, I'm saying, I have my Monday service, I have my Saturday service, I have my Sunday service. What about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday? Right? So can I do something on those days? All right, done. At least all 7 days of the week, I'm doing something. I'm doing offline services, in-person services, whatever. I'm doing some service. Okay, now I have my services for 1 hour in a day, 1.5 hours for chanting, 2.5 hours done. What about the rest? What do I do now? What do I do now? See, coming to a consistent 24/7 devotional service is the goal. But that goal can only be achieved by making 1 hour into a 2 hour, 2 hours into a 3 hour. So, where are you today? You have to analyze that and you have to say, what is the next step you can take? And then you have to think, why are you not taking that step? That's how we strengthen the glue, and the photograph is going to stick. Sorry.
Yeah, I had a question. So that it seems like the the 9 processes of bhakti help us reach the Bhagavan realization, but how do we really perform service with bhakti if we haven't realized Bhagavan yet? Like, how do we properly execute the service that brings us there if we haven't?
So that's the 9 processes, right? The first one is Shravana, right? So for us to reach to the Krishna Smaranam state, to be able to remember Krishna, we have to go through the Navedi process. The first step of that is listening. So when we get fortunate enough, Krishna is going to keep sending us reminders and something to listen to in some way or the other. It could be a random person just walking and saying Hare Krishna in your ear quietly. I know you all sneakingly do that sometimes. But in different ways, devotees keep doing that. If we are lucky, that is going to fall in our bucket and the process starts. So yes, the process starts with Vaishnava Kripa, with the mercy of the Vaishnava, that Bhakti Lata Bija, and then the process keeps watering that. So for those who have not got, go out and give them, and then the process is going to kick off automatically. I think we are way ahead of time, but we can continue with Prashadam if needed. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.